I was not prepared for what came through for you today. I want to say that before anything else, because the not prepared quality of it is important for understanding why this reading sounds different. From the readings that come through in the expected and manageable form of something that arrives within the range of what I have come to expect from the energy of a Virgo reading in the ordinary and prepared form that most readings take. When they arrive within that range, this one did not arrive within that range. It arrived differently in the specific and physical form of something that hit rather than arrived, in the landing with impact form of something whose weight was felt before its content was understood, in the pre-conscious and body first way of uh, of things that are too significant to be processed by the mind first, before the body has already responded to the weight of what is arriving. And what hit me was the size of what is about to change. For the specific Virgo, this message found, which is you. Reading this right now, at the specific moment this found you, which was not an accident. This reading has 4 layers, and I need you to stay for every single one. Because what the 4th layer contains is the part that hit me hardest, and that I almost could not say out loud because of how precisely it is meant for you and for what you have been carrying in the quiet and interior and unannounced form that the Virgo carries everything, including the things that are heaviest without announcement. Virgo, my beautiful Virgo, everything is about to change. And I mean that in the specific and real and arriving form of something that is not the language of encouragement, but the language of what is actually in the field around your life right now. Welcome, and stay with me through every word. The first layer, and this one is about where you are right now, not where you appear to be from the outside, in the composed and functional form that the Virgo presents to the world that is watching and that sees the composed form rather than what is underneath it, in the interior and specific form that this reading can see, because it is reading the field rather than the surface. I feel something in your energy that I want to name very specifically, because the specific naming is what produces the moment of recognition that tells you this reading is for you, rather than a general message that could apply to anyone in any situation without the specific fit that this reading has for the specific Virgo it found. You are tired of being strong, not tired of being who you are, not tired of the life you have built, or the people you love, or the things you are working toward, in the specific and forward moving form of someone who keeps going, even when the going is heavy. Tired of the specific and particular form of strength that has been the primary mode of your daily existence for a period that has been long enough For the strength to feel less like a quality and more like a requirement that the days keep making of the person inside them without asking whether the person has more to give in the strength form that the day is requiring, or whether the person has reached the specific and quiet edge of what the strength form can sustain before it needs something different than what the days have been requiring. In the strength first and always form, that has been the primary mode for long enough. Spirit is showing me something specific about what this tiredness looks like from the inside. And I want to name it in the precise and particular form that the inside of the tiredness actually takes, rather than the approximate and general form, that the outside of the tiredness presents to the world as the composed and functional Virgo who is handling everything in the reliable form that the world has come to expect from the specific and particular Virgo. Reading this right now, the inside of the tiredness looks like this. There are moments, specific and small moments, in the ordinary flow of ordinary days when you sit or pause or are briefly between one thing and the next, and something passes through the interior in the quiet and unannounced form of a thought that does not announce itself loudly, but that is there nonetheless, in the barely there and specific form of someone wondering when it will be their turn to be held rather than to hold, not held in the dramatic form of a grand gesture that announces that someone is taking care of you now, in the visible and celebrated form of something that the world can see and respond to as the evidence that you are being held in the form that the holding requires to be fully received by the person being held in the quiet form of someone simply knowing that another person has them in the specific and particular way that having someone means when it is real and present and available in the ordinary moments rather than only in the dramatic ones that announce themselves as the moments that require the holding. You have been wondering when that arrives in the quiet and unannounced moments of the ordinary days that have been passing, while the strength has been the primary mode and the wondering has been the interior companion of someone who holds without being held for the full period of the being strong that the days have been requiring. The change that is coming is the answer to the wondering. The second layer, stay with me, because this layer is where the reading gets specific in the way that made it hit before the words had come to describe what was hitting in the body first and pre-conscious form of something too significant to wait for the words. The second layer is about the change itself, not the what of the change. I will get to that. in the third layer. But the how of the change, because the how is what surprised me. When the message came through in the not prepared form, that produced the hitting that this reading is named for. The change does not arrive from outside. In the dramatic and announced form of a significant external event, that produces the change by happening in the visible dimension of your actual life and rearranging things in the before and after form of something that divides the before of a situation from the after of it in the visible and unmistakable way of a significant external event. The change arrives from inside first, in the specific and quiet form of something that shifts in the interior of the Virgo before it has a visible external cause that would explain the shifting to someone looking at it from outside rather than feeling it from inside as the person inside the shift, which is you. The interior shift is a settling in the specific and physical form of something that has been slightly unsettled for the full period of the being strong, and the wondering when it is your turn, and the holding without being held that has been the interior texture of the daily life, that the composed and functional exterior has been running on top of in the Virgo way of managing the interior while presenting the exterior in the composed and functional form that the world receives. The settling is the change beginning from the inside. And the settling feels like, in the specific embodied form that I want to describe, so you can recognize it when it arrives in the interior of the Virgo who has been waiting for the change without knowing exactly what form the waiting was for. The settling feels like breathing differently. In the particular and quiet form of someone who has been breathing with a slight and chronic shallowness that was not dramatic enough to notice on any individual breath, but that has been present as the baseline form of breathing for the full period of the being strong, and the holding without being held, and the wondering when it is your turn in the quiet and unannounced moments of the ordinary days. And then one breath arrives that is not shallow in the specific and unmistakable form of something that goes deeper than the shallow baseline had been going for the full period of the being strong. And the Virgo notices, not dramatically, not in the announced form, of someone who has had a significant realization and is marking it as such for the world around them, but in the quiet and interior form of someone who simply notices that something is different in the breathing and that the different is better. In the deeper and more available form of a breath that went where breaths are supposed to go, when they are not being slightly held by someone who has been being strong for long enough that the slight holding became the baseline rather than the exception. It actually is. That breath is the change beginning from inside The third layer, and this is the one that made me go back into your field before I pressed record to confirm what I was reading, because I wanted to be certain. Before I named it in the specific form that certain things deserve to be named in. When the reading is precise enough to support the precision of the naming, the third layer is about what is changing externally in the three specific and arriving forms of the everything that is about to change that this reading is named for in the title that found you today, at the moment it found you, which was not accidental. The first external change is in how you are seen by the people who matter in the specific and significant form of someone whose visibility is changing in the field around your life right now, in the accurate and full form, rather than the partial and surface form that the composed and functional exterior has been the available version of for the people who have been seeing the surface rather than what is underneath it. Someone is about to see the underneath in the specific and moving form of someone who has the particular quality of attention that can see past the surface into the interior, where the tiredness of being strong and the wondering when it is your turn and the holding without being held have been living in the quiet and unannounced form of a Virgo interior that is about to be seen accurately and fully by someone who's seeing has the specific and rare quality of being able to go where most seeing does not go. In the past, the surface form of an attention that is, in the full and arriving sense of the word, paying the second external change is in your material circumstances, in the specific and shifting form of something that has been in the uncertain or constrained or not yet what it is going to be form for the full period of the being strong, and that is now in the arriving and shifting form of something that has completed enough of its building to begin its arriving in the visible and material dimension of your actual daily life that the change is about to make more recognizable as yours in the specific and fitting form of a life that has finally caught up to the person living it. And the third external change is the most personal and the most directly connected to the first layers wondering when it is your turn. That the tired of being strong Virgo has been carrying in the quiet and unannounced moments of the ordinary days that have been passing. The third external change is being held in the specific and arriving form of someone who comes, not for what you can give them, but for what they want to give you in the quiet and consistent and ordinary moment form of a presence that does not need the dramatic moment to be the moment of the holding, but that is simply there in the ordinary Tuesday and the ordinary Wednesday and the the ordinary moments between the significant ones that are the actual texture of a life. When it is being lived rather than performed, that presence is arriving for the Virgo who has been wondering when it is their turn in the quiet and unannounced moments that the first layer described as the interior companion of the being strong and the holding without being held, that the third external change is about to answer in the quiet and ordinary and finally arrived form of it being your turn. The fourth layer, the one I almost could not say out loud, because of how precisely it is for you and for what you have been carrying in the interior and unannounced form that this reading has been accompanying through all four of its layers since the first words about being hit by something. Before it was understood, I want to address something that I feel forming in your energy right now. As the fourth layer arrives, in the reading you are in the middle of, and that I want to name before it speaks, in the reactive and undermining form that it sometimes takes when it has not been addressed first. The thought is, everything is about to change. Sounds good. But everything changing also means everything, including the things that are stable and familiar and known in the specific and reliable form that the stable and familiar and known things provide as the anchoring elements of a life that is changing. And that might need the anchoring more than it needs the changing in the full and everything form that this reading is describing. That thought is the Virgo mind, applying its analytical process to the everything is changing before allowing the relief of the everything is changing to be received in the full form that the tired of being strong Virgo actually needs it in, rather than the assessed form that the analytical process produces when it runs its checks on the everything is changing before allowing the full receiving. Here is what I want to say to that thought, directly and without qualification. The things that are stable and real and built on something solid do not change when everything changes in the arriving and shifting form that this reading is describing as the change that is coming. For the specific Virgo, it found only the things built on insufficient foundations change when the change arrives in the everything form that this reading is promising as the everything that is about to change for the specific Virgo who has been being strong and wondering when it is their turn and holding without being held for the full period that produced the tiredness that the first layer named in the careful and specific form that the naming deserved. What is real stays, what is not real changes, and the everything that is about to change is everything that was not real enough to stay when the change arrives in the form it is taking for the specific Virgo This reading found, I want to give you something before this closes in the permission form that the tired of being strong Virgo specifically needs before the change arrives in the full and everything form that this reading has been describing through all four of its layers. Permission to be tired out loud in the interior and private form of simply admitting to yourself before anyone else that the strength form has been the primary mode for long enough that you are tired of it in the specific and honest form of someone who names the tiredness rather than carrying it unnamed. In the quiet and unannounced form that the first layer described as the interior companion of the being strong, that has been requiring itself of the specific and particular Virgo. Reading this right now, name the tiredness in the interior and private form that only you need to hear before the change arrives and the being held begins. In the quiet and ordinary and finally arrived form of the answer to the wondering when it is your turn, that the quiet moments of the ordinary days have been asking without finding the answer until now. You are protected and seen in the full and specific and interior form of what has actually been happening underneath the composed exterior that the world has been receiving as the surface of someone who is handling everything and who is also in the quiet moments of the ordinary days, wondering when it is their turn to be held. It is your turn, Virgo, and the change that is arriving is the beginning of what your turn looks like in the specific and real and finally here form of everything that is about to change for the specific and tired of being strong and wondering when it is their turn, Virgo, who found this reading today at the exact moment they needed to find it, which was now. Take gentle care of yourself, my beautiful Virgo. The change is not coming. It is already here. In the breath that goes deeper than the shallow baseline was going, that you may have already taken since the first word of this reading found you